Hello and welcome to the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch. I'm the voice of the Bulldogs, Rob Bentley, alongside Sandy Golston as we continue action here and get ready to talk about Ferris State football for the next hour or so. And the Bulldogs coming off a huge win, 43-3 over the Ashland Eagles this past Saturday night. And Sandy, what a dominating performance by the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that very many people had that score. I know I did not have that score. But I think the Bulldogs really came out with a tremendous focus, and they had a second week bouncing back from the season opening week 0 loss. Bulldogs with a dominant performance against Lake Erie, and they followed up with a dominating performance against an Ashland team that, I mean, I think, and we'll probably hear from our guests a little bit later, but an Ashland team that's probably going to win a lot of games this season. And the Bulldogs really came out and just great return by Taariik Brett right off the bat, just really set a great tone for that game.
Of course, you mentioned Taariik Brett. We'll have him on the show today talking about that electrifying 90-yard kickoff return to start the ball game. We'll have assistant head coach Brian Rock on the show, who, of course, has been around college football for so long, and only the second kickoff return he's seen in his career, at least in terms of an opening kickoff return. So he's the guy that kind of coordinates that unit, and that really set the tone for the night.
Yeah, and he was fired up, and I think the fans will enjoy hearing some of the emotions that he was feeling as the guy that really works with that special teams return unit. And he was really fired up on the sideline, and with good reason.
Of course, it was a beautiful night for football at Top Taggart Field, a warm night, much different than we had the week before when the Bulldogs were able to score a win over Lake Erie, but two very similar games in terms of Ferris State jumped in front early. The defense certainly shut the door on both opponents, and the offense never really let the foot off the gas in the first half of each game.
Yeah, I think for the defense, really, it's just 3 straight games where the defense has been on fire and really played exceptionally good football. And you like that has continued. And in an earlier episode, we heard from Coach Hodges, and he talked about that defense not settling and continuing to work to get better. And they've certainly done that. But then the offense really took a huge step, in that game against Lake Erie College. And I think really probably took another big step against an Ashland team, an even better Ashland team in week 2. So really great job by all phases of the game. The Bulldogs got contributions from all 3 phases in the win.
The Bulldogs led by Trinidad Chambliss, who accounted for 4 quarterbacks, the junior quarterback, or 4 touchdowns, for the junior quarterback, who certainly was named the GLIAC Offensive Player of the Week. So great recognition. Second straight week the Bulldogs have had Player of the Week here in the conference.
Yeah, Trinidad was outstanding, and his command of the game, and I think he's one of those guys that had one of those individual guys in particular that had a little extra motivation after week 0. And he has really played some exceptional football in the last couple of weeks and very deserving of GLIAC Offensive Player of the Week honors.
Of course, he had to step up his game again with the loss of Carson Golker. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. But Carson, obviously, we had a chance to interview him on the Bulldog Tailgate show before the game, and in great spirits despite what happened. And it was nice to see him back with his team.
I think he was more positive than the fans. I mean, the fans were looking at him. I think everybody was feeling sorry, and he was the positive guy. And he graciously agreed to come on the pregame show with us, and we had a chance to interview him. It was a great interview, and it was really great to hear from him. And I think it really reassured a lot of Bulldog fans that were worried about him and had concern for him, and prayers were up for him. And he really came in and just really had a positive attitude, and he was still focused, and he was down there ready to support his teammates.
Bulldogs got off to a tremendous start again as they jumped in front 14-0. The offense scored on its first possession. The lead extended to 21-3 at one point, 36-3 at halftime, and then Ferris State for the second straight week had a chance to play a number of guys in the second half and really get some guys some repetitions out there on the field.
Yeah, it's one of the good things about having a game like that where you're able to just jump out early and really set a tone. And then the Bulldogs really had no let up, and they continued to keep the pressure down. They kept their foot on the gas pedal, and they kept moving forward. Their focus was outstanding. Ashland's a very good football team, and I really believe they're going to win a lot of games by the time this season's over and possibly contend for their conference's championship. And the Bulldogs really just came out very impressive with a big win over an Ashland team that's at times given us trouble over the last 10, 15 years. And so really great to see the Bulldogs get a good win.
Of course, Ferris State with the win. The Bulldogs jump up to number 5 in the American Football Coaches Association national rankings this week. Number 7 by D2Football.com. And what was a wild week in Division II football. We'll talk more about that coming up, and including some GLIAC teams as well. But certainly the Bulldogs have done what they had to do the last couple weeks, outscored the opposition 99-6 in the last 2 weeks, and have really set themselves up favorably when you look at the bye week this week, and then a schedule where it'll really allow them to get into the heart of the conference schedule.
Yeah, the Bulldogs are going to have some games coming up where they're going to be favored, but you take every opponent, respectfully and take them seriously, and I expect the Bulldogs to do that. The bye week probably at a good time. Bulldogs have some players that are banged up a little bit, some key players that we expect to have back. And so I think it's going to be good for that. Also, it's a chance to, as we'll probably hear from Coach Rock and Taariik, it's a chance to really refocus on the fundamentals and the little things that you want to do and you want to get back to and get better. Plus, the Bulldogs have 3 weeks of film to look at to evaluate where they were at the beginning of the year to where they are right now and entering the bye.
Next action for the Bulldogs will not be until a week from Saturday on September 28th as the Bulldogs make the long trip to Springfield, Massachusetts to face American International for the second straight year. Last year they came to Big Rapids. This year the Bulldogs going back to American International. And a long trip. Ferris State will be a heavy favorite going into that one, but you got to make the trip and you got to play the game.
Yeah, we've been on these plane flights, obviously, and Week 0 against Pittsburgh State, we've been on a plane flight. So, there's a lot of things that go into traveling on a long trip like that. The good thing is that these Bulldogs are experienced in a lot of ways. The leadership of the Bulldogs are very experienced. They've been through these kind of things before, including some guys that have, played in a couple of national championship games, won a couple of national championship games, and made trips on flights before. So I expect it to be a business-like trip for the Bulldogs.
We'll have all the action for you a week from Saturday, starting with the Johnson Automotive pregame show at 11 a.m., kickoff again at noon out in Springfield, Massachusetts, as the Bulldogs take on American International. And from there, it'll be conference games the rest of the way, beginning with the next home matchup against Roosevelt on October 5th.
Yeah, the conference season is going to creep up on us here pretty quick, but the Bulldogs certainly want to go into that feeling good with some momentum. They've got some really good momentum going right now, and so Bulldogs are going to get an opportunity to get a look at Roosevelt for homecoming, and homecoming is always a big thing, for the fans, for the alumni, for the Big Rapids community, the faculty and staff, students, of course. So that's going to be an exciting time, and going to be the next opportunity for fans to get a chance to see the Bulldogs at home. And so we encourage the fans to make their preparations to be able to come out and support the Bulldogs against Roosevelt. But in the meantime, enjoy this bye week and then hopefully be tuning in as we go and play American International.
Of course, fans can buy tickets for the homecoming game and all remaining home games this season online, ferrisstatebulldogs.com/tickets. Buy your tickets, buy your parking early, and be there for Bulldog football. Should have an outstanding crowd on homecoming. I know it's a little ways away here, 2.5 weeks or so away, but certainly it's going to come fast, and we expect to have a huge crowd for what will be a busy weekend here on the Ferris State campus.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic, and this year is a lot of anniversaries this year, a number of academic programs, a number of our social fraternities, Ferris State University, 140-year history of Ferris State University. We're celebrating 140 this year. So lots of great things going on. There's always just so many reunions and so many different tents and alumni coming back from, 40, 50, 60 years ago, coming back to be a part of the Bulldog family again, to get the family back together. So it's going to be a fun time, and the crowd, I think, is going to be fantastic. The tailgate, the atmosphere outside the stadium is going to be great, too. So I'll definitely want to make your preparations, and we'd love to see you for homecoming.
We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this break right here on the Bulldog Sports Network. And welcome back to the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you. We're joined by the assistant head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Brian Rock, with us here today. And Coach, thanks for being on the show here today.
My pleasure. Always a great time to spend it with the two best in the business.
Certainly this past week, an exciting game. The offense really got going early, and I know special teams, big return to start the ball game, and that's an area you play a big role in terms of the kick return.
Yeah, Coach puts each of us in charge of a different aspect of special teams, and kickoff return happens to be mine. And the guys did a great job, and we got a couple of big blocks, and we had seen something on film, and Taariik hit the hole perfectly and then exploded through the flame, as we like to call it, and took it down the sideline. But it's the second time in my career that we've been able to return one in an opening kickoff.
Maybe talk about that offensive performance then from that point forward. The defense gets the stop and the offense comes out and really performed well in that first half of play.
Yeah, it was heartwarming, I guess, to say the least, to see our guys come out and in all aspects. It wasn't just one guy making a play here and another guy making a play there. I felt like, the offensive line performed very well. Trinidad was awesome as far as his efficiency and running the offense. Route running was exceptional, and we were catching the ball, and our running backs were doing they were running hard, and Cannon Katzer had a great game, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I want to go back to the kickoff a little bit because, when that was coming back, one of the first people I was looking for down on the sideline was you, and you were pretty fired up down there on the sidelines there. You were feeling pretty good about that.
That's a big play. I mean, you talk about the emotional ebbs and tides of a football game and trying to manage. If you can do something to create momentum that early in a game, and now your guys are excited, the crowd's excited, and it's like, okay, things are going to go our way, and then you keep building off of that. But yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah, and coming into the game, Ashland certainly is, if you look at the teams that have gotten us a few times, it's been this Ashland team. And so you guys certainly had to come in with a high level of mental preparation, putting behind Lake Erie, putting behind Pitt State, and really locking in on this Ashland team.
Ashland's a really good football team. They're very well coached, and they have a personality like almost every football team does, but they're aggressive and tough, and they're going to hit you, and they're going to try to load the box and stop the run and do all those kinds of things and try to take you out of your game. But I think that's why, I think there was some reason for feeling good about things and the progress that we've made after that game, because, we got after a quality opponent. They're a good football team, and they're going to win a whole bunch of games. And for us to come out and kind of handle things the way that we did, I certainly didn't expect the game to quite play out that way, but we got after them from the get-go, and so that was rewarding.
Yeah, let's take a couple of steps back because, obviously the season opener was a tough loss for the team, and you took on a great challenge in week 0 and a challenge that maybe not a lot of people would necessarily take on. But talk about in the time after that game, immediately after that game, leading up to Lake Erie, because you have a veteran team in a lot of ways, but you have a young team in a lot of ways. Talk about how those guys stayed together, stayed focused, and realized that the goals are still ahead of us.
Well, I think part of that's coaching. You got to do a good job of reminding guys, a football season's a marathon. It's certainly not, a sprint. And, we got punched in the mouth, week 1. We didn't play well. I think I don't want to say we were overconfident by any means, but we just came out and we played somebody that was really good and was really ready to go, and they got after us, and we didn't respond very well, especially offensively. And so you go through a game like that, and let's face it, it's human nature to start to question yourself, and do I got what it takes and things. And so guys need to, Tony did a great job of talking about, sticking together and reinforcing each other positively and so forth and so on, and just stay the course. We're going to be all right. We're going to be okay. We just got to keep grinding. And our and then the players being a fairly mature team and a veteran team, they picked up on that, and I think they picked each other up and did a good job. And defensively, even though they'd played pretty well, in that game, they didn't, bat an eye as far as, they knew, we'd come around on offense and then you get a game against Lake Erie, which we needed, to kind of get a little bit of a confidence factor back. But, we took some, tough injuries in the Lake Erie game, so there's a couple other reasons to question how things are. So to really pull together, there's a lot of games. We still got, 8 regular season games left. So there's a lot of water going to go over the dam here. But I think that when you look at, progress being made from week to week and day to day, and we just got off the practice field just a little bit ago today, and we don't play this weekend, but you can see a little bounce in our guys' step, and it's not just, work ethic, but it's maybe confidence and hey, we're going to keep making sure we get better every single day, take advantage of our opportunity to get better, and hope that continues.
Yeah. And I don't know how much you're following the national scene in college football at Division II or other levels, but there's a lot of craziness going on right now. We had 2 top 5 teams lose in Division II. Pittsburgh State, we just mentioned, they dropped one. Central Missouri dropped a game as well, and so Harding still looks pretty good, but it's wild out there. You got to come ready to play every week.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but the teams can change, from year to year. Obviously the transfer portal has changed life for college athletics, but yeah, we watch all those things, and we know who played well and who got upset and all those kinds of stuff. You got to keep your eye on the prize. You want to take one day at a time, but you got to keep your eye on the prize.
There you go.
Coach, I know you've been around the game a long time, and we're going to have Taariik Brett on the show later on, but how many times in your coaching career, opening kickoff, maybe back for a touchdown?
That was the second time. The first time, I'm going to date myself here a little bit. I was telling our staff a little bit. The first time was Phil Williams from Brother Rice High School. St. Joseph's College returned the opening kickoff against Wayne State, and we were heavy underdogs, and we ended up winning.
Wow. That's hard to believe that it is very rare, but maybe just talk about this bye week. Obviously, the guys a chance to get better this bye week and get ready for a long road trip next week to American International.
Yeah, I think, Tony, we've made a point that, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to get better, for us to work on, technical things. You spend so much time when you're in game preparation working on the scheme and assignments and, whether it be offensively, the offensive line protecting their blitzes and so forth and so on. An open date gives us an opportunity here early in the year to really kind of refocus on individual technique. And I think that's one of the things that sometimes gets lost in college football teams because you are so focused on a specific opponent. Now we get a chance to come back and focus on ourselves and, whether it be, making an individual dig cut or how we're throwing the ball or, our back pedal or, how we're running a twist with the defensive line, any of those things. But now you get to work on those things. And I think, you got to take advantage of that, during the week. But we also want to make sure that we're doing a good job of keeping our guys or trying to get guys that got bumps and bruises back and ready to go because, you got to get them ready. You got to get them to the game. Your players got to play and you got to get them to the game. And so that'll be a kind of a in the background of our minds, going through the rest of this week we'll practice again tomorrow and then we'll practice again on Thursday. And then I think we'll give them Friday and Saturday off and then try to get a bonus day on Sunday and get ready to go out and play American International, and I've already watched them a little bit on tape. They're pretty athletic and, we'll have to have, ourselves ready to go.
I know as you look at the rest of the season and stuff, a lot of games left to be played. Maybe just talk about these guys, though, kind of away from football in terms of their commitment. And I know we talked about this yesterday, guys already in working out, lifting early Monday morning, and just the commitment they have here to the game.
I am a firm believer, and I know Tony gets asked this all the time, but from a guy that's been around the block a number of times, lots of guys have good schemes offensively and defensively and so forth and so on. We've got good players and our guys work hard and they practice their tails off. They really do. And I think that you want to know what's the key to our success is the fact that our guys work their rear ends off and they practice really, really hard and they buy in. Winning is important to them. And it's not that way everywhere. I promise you, it's not that way everywhere. But it's really fun to coach guys like that. And we've got a team right now that in the 5-6 years that I've been here, this team right here is as focused on getting better. And I'm really they're a lot of fun to coach because they really want to be coached and they want to work hard and they want to be successful. And there's not a lot of jacking around. They come to work every day. They pack their lunch and let's go.
I know. Finally, here before we let you go, I know. Speaking of coming to work, you're here all the time, but maybe away from the football side. What do you enjoy doing? And I guess what's the off season like for you when you do get an opportunity?
I don't. It's funny. Everybody always used to ask me, "What are your hobbies?" And I said, "Well, I'm a football coach. You don't have any hobbies. I mean, any free time I ever had when I was younger was I wanted to spend with my kids and my wife, and I like being outside, and I've got 5 grandkids now, so I'd like to see them a little bit more, and hopefully we'll get that opportunity. But
you walk around the neighborhood, though.
I walk a lot. I love riding my bike, and I don't like sitting still too terribly much. But I'd say I like being active.
Well, Coach, we appreciate all the time, and looking forward to next week's matchup already here for the Bulldogs.
Appreciate you guys.
We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this quick timeout. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you as we move into our discussion on the GLIAC and the national scene here in Division II football. And Sandy, it was a crazy week for many of the Division II teams. We had a bunch of GLIAC teams in action and really kind of felt like a true football season here with all the teams playing pretty much Saturday games for the most part this past week. Yeah,
there's a number of teams, obviously, that didn't participate in week 0 and maybe some not necessarily getting going in week 1, but it really felt like week 2, we just had a full slate. And I tell you, just not only we'll talk about the GLIAC, we'll talk about the national scene as well, but just some interesting developments here early in the season.
Let's start with the GLIAC matchups as all the conference teams were in action this past weekend. And we'll start with some non-league games. They were all non-league games, but we'll start with some that happened earlier in the day in terms of the early action. Michigan Tech, for the second straight week, got a big win over Hillsdale. 21-6, the final score as the Huskies win for the second week in a row up in Houghton.
I like Michigan Tech. I mean, I've had a chance to look at Michigan Tech a little bit this year, and that's a scary team. Michigan Tech always plays tough. They play hard. They play smart. They're a very physical team, and they look good right now. That's a very, very quality win over Hillsdale and coming off another good win. So Michigan Tech is a team to keep your eye on.
Of course, playing a little bit maybe different style. I think they had a big passing day a couple weeks ago. This past week, maybe not quite so many passing yards, but still found a way to beat the Chargers.
Yeah, they did. And that's a mark of a good team. And they can really hurt you through the air, but they can also line up as traditionally Michigan Tech teams do and be able to run the football physically. And so definitely a team to keep an eye on.
Of course, moving on in terms of GLIAC action, Davenport had to go on the road, and they had a close ball game for the second week in a row, but they defeat Bowie State 17-14 on the road in Maryland. So a big road win for head coach Sparky McEwen and the Panthers.
Yeah, Coach McEwen's team, they find a way. So far this season, they find a way, and they've had to go on the road for frankly, a couple of really long road trips, and they found a way to get it done both times. So good teams find a way to win. Good teams find a way to win on the road.
Speaking of trying to win on the road, Saginaw Valley State was trying to win on the road, and it was a short road trip, maybe one of the shortest ones in the country, but unfortunately they could not pull out the win as Northwood takes the Axe back. They win at 10-7 in the Axe Bowl in Midland.
Yeah, it's not as close as Washita and Henderson, but it is pretty close. And boy, what a good win for Northwood. Tough loss for Coach Brady and the Cardinals, and Northwood was able to bang through a field goal to break the 7-7 tie, and they find a way to get the Axe back. So good win for Northwood, maybe a Northwood program that's on the rise and could be a team to look at in GMAC.
Another team on the rise in the GMAC is Findlay, and they're playing some good football here early in the year, and they beat Wayne State 42-30, a game that maybe wasn't as close as the final score would indicate, as the Oilers kind of controlled that one from start to finish.
Yeah, Findlay really dominated the game in the first half, and then Wayne State came on in the second half and were able to get some points on the board. But Findlay was certainly very dominant. And we've seen Findlay start to emerge and slowly get better and better and better. But right now, they along with Tiffin, are the two teams probably to look at, two of the teams to really look at in the GMAC.
We had two GLIAC teams that both fell to Division III schools, but these two Division III schools are very good teams from the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin Whitewater defeats the league newcomer in Roosevelt 24-14, and Wisconsin Lacrosse defeated Northern Michigan 35-21, the final score in that ball game. Again, those are two pretty good teams. Lacrosse, one of the top 5 teams in Division III football.
Yeah, Lacrosse is obviously an outstanding team at the Division III level, and a team that expects to be able to compete for a national championship at that level. Whitewater is good too. In that Wisconsin system, those D3 schools, they're pretty good. You cannot sleep on those schools. And, Lacrosse is a team that you definitely got to be careful with. And, they're going to have a matchup with Grand Valley.
Of course, after the Ferris State game, we had one final matchup of the day, and Grand Valley jumped out in front of Colorado State Pueblo 17-0. They win the game 24-21. Pueblo rallied in the second half, but didn't quite have it in the end to beat the Lakers.
Yeah, Pueblo started to really get some things going in the second half against Grand Valley, but give the Lakers credit. They were able to get off to a really good start, and then they were able to hang on down the stretch. And so, Grand Valley with a very balanced effort, and they were able to hold off Pueblo, and that's no small task. And, credit to Grand Valley for getting off to such a great start on the road.
Let's move around the national scene before we get to this week's games in the GLIAC. We mentioned the next opponent for the Bulldogs is American International. They're off to a 1-1 start. They dropped their most recent game to Southern Connecticut State this past weekend by a score of 35-21. We'll talk more about them coming up here later on in the show. We had several upsets around the country this past week. Northwest Missouri defeated Fort Hays State as they get their first win of the year. Central Missouri fell as the number 2 team in the country to Central Oklahoma, and we had Delta State falling to Wingate. You name it, there were some big upsets. Pittsburgh State was another team that got upset by Emporia State.
Yeah, there were some big upsets, and had a chance to catch a little bit of the Emporia State at Pittsburgh State game, and Emporia State with a strong game, and Pittsburgh State, give them credit, they rallied a little bit down the stretch, but not quite able to fully come back. Central Missouri getting upset certainly opened up some eyes, but still Central Missouri and Pittsburgh State, still two very dangerous teams. That's going to be a great race in the MIAA.
Of course, this week, some big games on the national scene, some games going on around the GLIAC as well. We'll talk about the national scene first, then we'll get to some of the GLIAC games. Lake Erie, who the Bulldogs defeated in week 2, they will travel to Findlay. Findlay, big favorite in that matchup. Number 8, Kutztown will travel to Gannon. Ohio Dominican hosting Thomas More in the Great Midwest Athletic Conference. Walsh, another GMAC school, will play host to Kentucky Wesleyan. Wingate, that we mentioned, got a big win last week over Delta State. They'll travel to Carson Newman. Wingate now number 23 in the national rankings by D2Football.com. Charleston, number 22, will play host to UNC Pembroke. And Ashland, who the Bulldogs just beat, will visit Hillsdale among some of the early games going on Saturday.
Yeah, some interesting games to keep an eye on. Not quite as many heavy-hitting games as we had last week, but there's still some big games left on the schedule, not only this week, but in the weeks to come.
Lenore Rhine has looked pretty good here early. They're number 12 in the country. They'll visit Mars Hill. Minnesota State, also unbeaten, will play host to Minot State. The Mavericks are ranked 4th in the nation. Minnesota State Moorhead defeated Duluth, I believe, this past week in big win. And they will be on the road at McKendree. Slippery Rock, up to number 10 in the nation, will visit Shippensburg. Augustana playing host to Northern State. Colorado Mines, now number 5, will visit Chadron State out in western Nebraska. It'll be Emporia State, number 18, after the big win over Pittsburgh State. They play host to Missouri Western, and Bemidji State, number 21, will visit Sioux Falls.
Yep, some interesting games, and for some of these teams, you really want to. You're either getting into your conference play, or you're still trying to set the stage for getting into conference play. But some teams again are already into their conference play.
Minnesota Duluth will try to rebound against Mary. We've got Northwest Missouri visiting Missouri Southern. Colorado Mesa will be at Colorado State Pueblo. Valdosta State, number 3, visits Erskine. And then Northwood will visit Tiffin. And that'll be a big game in the GMAC.
Yeah, that will be a huge game in the GMAC. So definitely one to keep your eyes on. Tiffin is one of those teams that you look at as being one of the teams expected to compete for the championship. And how about Northwest Missouri? I mean, big bounce back, stunned pretty much the nation there with a big win over Fort Hays, a chance that Northwest Missouri could have fallen to 0-3, and that'd be unthinkable for a program like that.
Some ranked teams in action. Number 20, Virginia Union will visit Johnson C. Smith. It's Delta State, number 24, playing host to Fort Valley as they try to bounce back. Henderson State, number 17, will host Arkansas Tech. Ouachita Baptist, number 16, will visit Southern Arkansas. We got West Florida, the number 13 team in the nation, hosting West Alabama. That'll be a big game for West Florida before they travel to Grand Valley next week.
Yeah, West Florida coming off a bye week, so it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. And then you mentioned Grand Valley on the horizon for them.
And, of course, some other games. Central Oklahoma got the huge win over Central Missouri. They're ranked 25th. They'll visit Nebraska Kearney. It's Central Washington, number 9, going to West Texas A&M, and Western Colorado, number 14, hosting Adams State. That's a look at the ranked teams. Not playing a GLIAC school this week. We got a few playing GLIAC schools this week coming up here shortly.
Yep. So it's going to be some interesting games going on, and again, some of these teams, really just kind of fine tuning things before they really jump into conference play, because some of these conference schedules are going to be absolutely brutal. It's going to be very challenging. A lot of potential pitfalls for many teams trying to compete for championships in the major leagues of Division II.
And, of course, some of those ranked teams in action against GLIAC schools, so we'll get to those. Central Missouri, who was number 2 before that loss, they're going to Caledonia to face Davenport this weekend down in the Grand Rapids area.
That is a fascinating game. Coach McEwen's Davenport Panthers, traditionally a very good defensive team, and they're going to be facing one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best offenses in the country in Central Missouri. That should be a great matchup. Of
course, we've been talking about this next matchup. Traditionally, when you think of a Division II playing a Division III, you expect the Division II teams going to handle that game. Northern Michigan, though, at home in the Superior Dome, a huge test against Elma College. Elma coming off a playoff season and may have one of their best teams ever.
Yeah, they certainly feel like they have a really good team. They feel like they're going to have a team, Alma being, that's going to maybe have a chance to compete for a national championship in addition to a conference championship. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup. Northern Michigan seems to be a little better than they were last year, but that's a tough matchup for them.
Of course, we mentioned how the GLIAC teams had to face a couple Wisconsin Division III teams last weekend. We got another one this week. Michigan Tech will visit Wisconsin Oshkosh. Saginaw Valley State trying to bounce back after the loss to Northwood. They got a big test as well as they host Truman State.
Yeah, that's not going to be easy. Truman State definitely a team hungry for a win. They're a team that was expected to be very good, off to maybe a little bit of a slow start for what they expected. Saginaw Valley is a team that they need to win. They need to win bad. So Truman and Saginaw Valley, 2 teams that really need to win.
Roosevelt will step up as they take on Valparaiso down in Indiana. We got Indianapolis, number 15 in the nation. They're still unbeaten. They'll visit Wayne State in Detroit, and then Grand Valley State playing host to Wisconsin Lacrosse. Again, Wisconsin Lacrosse, a top 5 team in Division III. And a couple years ago, they went into Allendale and really gave Grand Valley State a good ball game.
I gave them a really good ball game. So it's a fascinating matchup, because you mentioned a top 5 team in Division III on the road against a top 5 team in Division II. But Lacrosse has a history of playing teams tough. You mentioned it. They played Grand Valley very tough, and Grand Valley able to find a way to get a win. And the Lakers will be favored, but they're certainly going to have to be ready to play.
We'll have more of the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch coming up right after this break. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you as we get ready to talk normally in this segment about the next opponent for the Bulldogs. And unfortunately, maybe for some of the Ferris State fans, there is not a next opponent this week as the Bulldogs are on a bye week. They know who the next opponent is going to be. It's going to be American International, but a couple weeks to prepare here for the next opponent.
Yeah, a couple weeks to prepare, but the bye week is a time to focus on yourself a little bit, to focus on some healing, to maybe install some new wrinkles, to get back to the fundamentals. So Bulldogs will certainly be taking that approach. And then as you get into game week, they'll focus a little bit more on American International.
Of course, you mentioned focusing kind of on yourself a little bit here during the bye week. We've heard that from Coach Rock as well. But Coach Denise, I think, said it best maybe during the press conference the other night towards the end of it. He said the Bulldogs maybe took advantage of the COVID break without football for a year better than anyone else, winning a national championship off that. So they certainly know kind of how to focus on themselves when they have to.
If only we can have that result again. But, he's right. And the coaches have done a good job of really preparing a good game plan to be ready for a bye week and to try to capitalize on it, to give the guys a chance to rest and to recuperate. But at the same time, you want to make sure that they stay sharp and they stay focused. And so it's a balancing act that the coaches have to make, and they've done it well over the years.
Of course, this gives Ferris State a chance. You had 3.5 weeks or so of preseason camp. You're 3 weeks into the season. Guys already have some nicks and some bruises. A few guys that did not play this past weekend that certainly should help them as they try to prepare and get back on the road to recovery.
Well, you certainly like to think so because, once you start to get into the season, you're going to have the bumps and bruises. You're going to have guys that are going to be banged up. And, the Bulldogs have had that over the last couple of weeks. And so this is an opportunity. And then sometimes you have guys that are banged up, but they end up playing anyway. And so some of those guys are going to have an opportunity to hopefully heal up a little bit, take care of their bodies here over this bye week and to really lock in. It's a long season. And, Coach Rock talked about that a little bit. It's a long season. And so you have to be ready to pace yourself to make sure that you can stay on top as the season continues.
Of course, the next opponent for the Bulldogs will be on September 28th. A long trip to Springfield, Massachusetts. The Bulldogs will fly out on Friday the 27th, play a noon start up in Springfield, Massachusetts. So a little different than maybe that Pittsburgh State trip. We went to Pittsburgh State. Yeah, the guys had to kind of sit around all day, wait for that evening game before the overnight flight back home. It'll be a little bit different type of a trip playing an early game.
Yeah, it's going to be basically you go to sleep, wake up, shower, and just get ready to head on over to the stadium. So definitely not going to be any dilly-dallying because you're right. It was an interesting dynamic. And again, it's not no excuses or anything like that. It is what it is. But, it's just it's awkward, just to kind of be on the road in a hotel all day. And, there are a lot of activities that the coaches did a good job of keeping the players occupied and keeping the players focused. But this is going to be completely different. This is going to be, like I said, just wake up in the morning, shower, and get your treatments if you have to, and basically head on over to the stadium.
It'll be a noon start. We'll have pregame coverage for you at 11 a.m. Of course, we'll have the Bulldog Blitz football radio show next week as well before we get into that matchup. So we'll have a chance to talk a little bit further about American International. But quickly here, 1-1 on the year. They got a big win over Shippensburg in the season opener and then fell to Southern Connecticut State 35-21 this past weekend. This is a team the Bulldogs had a chance to play last year. Really handled American International 56-0, but a new head coach at the very least here and probably brings some different types of systems, kind of like we saw with Pittsburgh State in the season opener.
Yeah, probably going to be some different things, some different wrinkles. New coaches come in and, they certainly are going to do things differently. Sometimes even if they keep the same coordinators or they keep the same basic scheme. And so you would expect to see some changes. It looks like they're a team that can put some points on the scoreboard if you're not careful. So I know the Bulldogs defensively are going to have to be focused on that front.
Of course, American International does have a game this Saturday as they take on St. Anselm at home. So a couple home games in a row for American International, with the second one being Ferris State traveling there next week as the Bulldogs will have a chance to play that one. Then you come back home for homecoming. You've got the league opener against Roosevelt and right into the heart of the conference schedule from here on out.
Yeah, it just it gets real. I mean, it's already real, but it really gets real once you get into conference play. And that's the one thing, the tough week 0 loss, it's never fun. But at the same time, we haven't played any GLIAC games yet. So, I mean, a GLIAC championship is still very much on the table for us. And so that's an exciting thing. And all your goals, are still ahead of you. And so it's an opportunity for the Bulldogs to lock in here. And, when Roosevelt comes in, that's when it gets real for GLIAC championship contention.
Of course, I've heard some fans already talk about why Ferris State, the long trip to Springfield, Massachusetts. Well, it goes back to what we've heard Athletic Director Steve Brocklebank and others talk about. It's hard to find games in Division II football. The Bulldogs will certainly take anyone anywhere they can get here in terms of the scheduling agreements.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for opponents, and obviously it has to be a mutual fit. It has to not only work well for Ferris State, but it also has to work well for the opponent. And, there's some other, top teams that are, facing some of the same challenges. And, you just, you find the way that you can to put together a good schedule. And so, as an athletic director, and we've seen this firsthand, you even more than me, Steve and the staff are constantly working on trying to get opponents to solidify schedules even years ahead of time. So it's always a challenge.
Well, we have a chance. We'll do a quick update here in Ferris State Athletics, as that was a look at American International. We'll have more on them next week as well. Some big action in Ferris State Athletics. We got a number of teams already in action this fall. Men's golf tournament just wrapping up the Bulldog Fall Classic early this week at Khaki Golf Course with the third place finish. The women's golf team at the Folds of Honor Challenge at the Meadows down in Allendale here early this week. The cross-country teams had some good results at the Michigan State Spartan Invitational as they will head back to Lansing for the Lansing Invite this week. And Bulldog Volleyball 7-0, 2 weekends with winning all their matches on the road, a trip to Texas, followed by a trip to Huntsville, Alabama this past weekend.
Yeah, there's no question. They're off to a brilliant start, but boy, it's about to get really intense here coming up with the upcoming matchups. Of
course, Ferris State Volleyball, as you mentioned it, going to be on the road with a huge match, maybe one of the biggest matches of the season against Grand Valley State Friday night in Allendale. They were the 2 best teams in the GLIAC a year ago, and they're going to go at it here in the conference opener. Then at Wayne State on Saturday, Bulldog Soccer opening conference play as well as they travel to Roosevelt and Parkside, looking to bounce back after a competitive weekend of soccer against Findlay and Ashland.
Yep, just going to be fun to see how that goes, and Bulldogs looking to bounce back, and a lot of soccer left to be played.
Men's and women's tennis also in action. The men's tennis will head to Davenport for the Invitational on Friday. Women's tennis just competed in the ITA Midwest Regional Championships here for 3 days this past weekend. So a busy start to their season already. And right around the corner is Bulldog Hockey CCHA Media Day taking place early this week. So it won't be long before we hit October 4th and Bulldog Hockey will hit the ice.
That's crazy. It feels like hockey starts so early. So you're just settling into football season, and all of a sudden here comes hockey. So it's a sign that the winter sports are not too far away.
We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this break. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you, and joined by Ferris State University slot receiver Taariik Brett. And first of all, Taariik, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I know this past weekend, exciting for you, being the kick return guy, took the opening kick back 90 yards for a touchdown. What was that moment like just for you on that opening kickoff return?
The moment is very special, opening kickoff, coming out the locker room, TA telling us we got to play to our standard. So go out there, return the opening kickoff is very electric, to be honest. Set the tone for the rest of the game. As you can see, 43-3, so, hit the opponents in the heart. Nobody wants that to ever happen on the first play of the game. So, it was very electric for me. I loved it.
I know you had a chance to play growing up, going through high school. Have you ever returned a kick for a touchdown?
Actually, no, I have not. That was my first ever in my whole football career, returning the kickoff. My very first one in my whole football career. I've been playing for 16, 17 years.
Maybe let's talk about, before we get into the rest of the season and kind of what's going on with the team. You came from Georgia. What brought you here to Ferris State, and why a Bulldog?
TA actually drove down to my house, recruited me to come. I liked it. I loved what he was doing here with his program. I love the numbers they was putting up. So he came on to visit. I liked it, even though it was during COVID, But he already, he sold me and my parents, to be honest. So, and then there was the academic piece as well. It's very, just a good school to come get a degree out of. So, obviously that's important as well. And the only thing, was coming from Georgia, then coming up here to Michigan with the cold weather, that's a little bit challenging. But, I got a little used to it over time after having been there every day. So after that, everything was smooth sailing from there.
I know you had a chance the first couple of years you were here to kind of learn from some of the older guys. Mm-hmm. Maybe what were some of the lessons that they've kind of taught you about adjusting to college football and life here at Ferris State?
Adjusting to college football, it's not high school. Coming from high school, you the man, you the best player. Coming to college, everybody good. That's why they're here on scholarship for the most part. Just sit back and learn. You don't know nothing yet. Mm-hmm. So take your time, learn, pay attention, and listen to the older guys that's been here, because they know what to do, and they know what the coaches expect. So you just learn how to be a good follower. You know what I mean? So that's really what I did. I just sat there, learn, watch everybody, watch everything, see what the coaches like to see, and then when it was my turn, just execute that. So that's pretty much how I go. To be honest, there's nothing else to it.
What's it like, going back to that return? What's it like what's that moment? What was that moment like when you were like, man, it's there? What was that moment like?
When I seen the seam open up, Cannon, he was the off returner. So when I seen him kick his man out, because I got to read his block, and I looked, and it was just nothing but just a lane and green grass. I said, oh, shoot, so I got to hit it. So I put my foot in the ground, hit the seam. I had to beat the kicker, so beat him. And then somebody was coming at another angle. So I was just running. When I tell you, I was using so much energy so I could not get caught. So I was just running. There's one more dude to beat. He tried to, clip my foot, but...
Well, you didn't think they were going to get you, though, did you?
No.
I
knew once. I said he was a little coming at a bad angle. I said, okay, he going to try to clip my foot. I already knew he was going to try to do, so I kind of hopped to the side a little bit, and then I was going from there. But my eyes was real big once I seen that lane open up. I said, oh, yeah, there it is right there.
Yeah,
so.
It was we're looking at it from up top, and it's like, ooh, it's there, and Taariik's got that speed. I'm like, that looks pretty good. But talk a little bit about, we've talked to some of the other guys on the team, some of the coaches. After Pittsburgh State, that was a tough loss for you guys. Talk about how you guys stayed together. There was no finger pointing or anything along those lines. You guys just kind of, got back to work and just kind of got that focus back. And you guys have just been on fire the last 2 games.
Yeah, obviously Pitt State was a tough loss. We understood what we went wrong at, and then we came back the following week to play Lake Erie. Everybody was focusing, defense played well. So offense, we got ourselves together. We focused in, make sure we execute everything properly. We're doing our jobs, and then we went out there, execute against them. And then come this week, same thing, same mindset, same mentality. So go out there, execute, and just, make sure you're doing your assignments well, man. That's all it is. You go out there and play ball and have fun. That's all. That's what it is. You got to go out there and have fun. You can't be out there antsy, not trying to make a mistake. Fly around, have fun. If you know what you're doing, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Have fun doing it. So that's really what we did the past 2 weeks. So, and the result shows for itself.
Yeah. What were the coaches like? I mean, because, I know the coaches did a good job of keeping you guys focused and getting you guys back on track. And it seemed like they did a great job of kind of managing things, because I think it felt like you guys were maybe more frustrated than down after Pittsburgh State, and you guys just wanted to kind of get back to work. And then you guys got back into work, and I know we were both at practices, right after Pittsburgh State, and you guys just looked locked in.
Yeah, the coaches was they was fine. They was more so, in my opinion, they was more so worried about making sure we not worrying about the loss. Like, it is what it is. It happened. It's in the past. We need to move forward and make sure we good going forward. So, and that's really what their main focus was. All right, it is what it is. Now let's make sure we carry on the rest of the season like we know we can, which is winning the rest of our games. So, and from the looks of it, we starting off great.
Yeah, doing a good job so far since that game. Talk about a bye week and what that's like. And you've probably had a few of those over your career. What's that like? I know we got some guys that are banged up a little bit, and gives you guys a chance to maybe sharpen some things up a little bit. Just talk a little bit about a bye week process.
Bye week, we just fundamentals. Nothing too much, because you don't want nobody getting banged up. Or it's more so if you are banged up. Heal a little bit, got time to heal. And it's more so just letting the younger guys or guys that don't really, play as much get an opportunity to show themselves, you know what I mean? So, but for the most part, it's regular week, it's just not as heavy, you know what I mean? So, other than that, it's pretty much the same thing, same intensity, same drills, same team periods, same skelly periods. Other than that, it's just everybody's getting a lot more reps than they normally would.
Sure. Yeah. And last question before I kick it back to Rob. Obviously with Carson going down, that was very difficult.
Yeah.
A very emotional moment for the team. He took you guys right down there, almost to the goal line, and that was a really difficult moment. But talk about that moment, because you guys all rallied together around him before he left the field, and then you guys punched it in after that, and then Trinidad emerging, in the last couple of games. Just talk a little bit about that, because that was a big swing of emotions for you guys.
Yeah. I was actually on the field when it happened. I had a big block that just opened up the lane for him to run. So when it happened, it was, obviously devastating. Carson is a great player, big time quarterback for us as well. Helped us in a lot of key games, if y'all remember.
Oh yeah.
But we all gather around. Nobody wished that on nobody. So you're like, you one of us, you one of our brothers, man. So we're gonna go out there and do what we need to do. For us and for you for the most part. So can't let them down, man. Somebody go down, you can't let them down, man. Go out there, do what we need to do, handle business. So if we finish that game out for him, we're going to finish out the rest of this season for him as well. you know, it really just bothered me to think about it because I was right there when Ashley.
But it had to be good seeing him back, though, this past week, coming back. And he's got this positive attitude, and everybody else is like, man, are you okay? You're okay. And he's got this positive attitude.
Carson, that's a strong man. I got to give it to him because for him to come out here almost walking around like he just snapped his leg is kind of wild. It's crazy. But, yeah, he is moving around perfectly fine. Surgery went great, you know. So he looks good, man. So that's great. Great to see. Great to see him moving around. Look like it, you know. It's good, man.
Yeah.
Taariik, I know you're obviously not only a great football player, but one of the top sprinters here in recent years in the GLIAC. Maybe talk about the mentality, I guess, the differences from being a track athlete and obviously being a football player.
Different mentalities. You know, it's two completely different sports. Now, going out there on the track after football season, you know, speed's completely different, man. And it's just, man. So going out there on the track and competing against people that, you know, practice year round, and I'm in football, so it's like that transition. It's a hard transition because I'm not conditioned for track once I start track. So I just go out there with the mindset for football, like, man, I'm gonna go out here and compete. I don't really care who line up in front of me or who line up next to me. So mentality for me is pretty much the same, but I also understand that these people do this year round, man. So, but for me to go out there and compete and actually place in the GLIAC like I did indoor, last year spring, was great for me because I just went out there and did it. You know what I mean? Fortunately, I had got surgery in this spring, so I couldn't do indoor. So I went out there outdoor. We ended up breaking the 4x1 record, school record, which was great. So we looking forward to doing that thing again this year. So yeah, I you know, can't wait for track outdoor season and indoor, to be honest. So mentality the same though. To me, it's the same.
Finally here, before we let you go, maybe talk about, I know you mentioned earlier coming a long way from Georgia, that support from your family. I know I've seen your dad, I think, tune into some games and follow us on social media.
Definitely.
Maybe just talk about that support, what that means, even though they're so far away.
Nah, I love the support. Support means a lot for my family because we're very big. We're a very big sports household. So all of us play football. I got 3 brothers besides the oldest one, but all of us really play football. And always go to the games, even our niece and nephews, you know, my brother kids. So we make sure they go to the game because I'm not there no more. So they make sure they go to the games and support them. So, and they tune in to through Flow Sports, and they watch the games and stuff. And the support, I really appreciate the support, man. It's very, you know, I love how they try their best to make sure they get to see me play. But they come up for the big games, like against Grand Valley. So they're going to be here for that. And then playoff games. And then if we go to the national championship, obviously. So I really appreciate the support from the family. You know, I love them to death.
You got a few more people down there in Georgia or Florida that you can hook us up with?
Actually, it's actually a lot of people down there. You know, down there in Florida. You know, he recruited in Florida, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the only Georgia kid on the team, actually. So that's not really the place they recruit, but you know, it's people out there in Georgia now. So yeah, definitely, I do know some.
I did say I was going to ask you one last question, but I'm going to have one more for you. Give us something maybe away from track, away from football that you like to do, kind of off the field and off the track.
Okay. So what I do, I'm the bowler on the team, so I can bowl, and I go like every Tuesday over there in Big Rapids in the city. They have a special $2 bowling. So I go in there, I take some teammates with me if they want to come. Got my own bowling ball, you know, got my own shoes, got my bag.
Are you not playing?
I bowl. I go there and bowl, yeah. Have fun. Yeah, it's nice.
I can already tell you, we had Seth on the show a couple weeks ago. He said he likes to play golf. He's not very good at it. I can already tell you're a better bowler than he is a golfer.
Yeah, I'll be in there. I'll definitely be in there. I picked that up when I first got here as a freshman too, the bowling.
Nice.
So kind of keep my mind off everything. I like
good stuff, yeah.
Well, Taariik, we certainly thank you for the time. Congrats. Named the Ferris State Special Teams Player of the Week, and a great kickoff return. And enjoy the bye week, and we look forward to seeing you guys again next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch right after this break. And welcome back for our final segment here on the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you as we wrap up today's show. Ferris State football on a bye week after a big win over the Ashland Eagles 43-3 last Saturday. They'll visit American International on September the 28th, but a chance for this team really to rest up, get healed, and get ready for a big run coming up here the month of October and November.
Yeah, it's a good time for it. The Bulldogs get this bye week, and then they get a long road trip to play American International. Bulldogs are certainly going to be favored in that contest, and they get to come home for a homecoming. So great time for a bye week, and hopefully the Bulldogs are resting up and sharpening up.
Of course, we'd like to remind fans, you can still join the Gridiron Club. Be sure to visit ferrisstatebulldogs.com, find out more about the Gridiron Club. We saw the Gridiron Club out there in the tailgate lots at the last couple home games. We had a great tailgate show this past week talking with Steve Krispinski, former Bulldog, who worked at Ashland University for 40 years. We had Bill Shively, who, of course, has been kind of one of the longtime guys that's ran the Gridiron Club. So a lot of familiar faces out there in the tailgate lots.
Yeah, a couple former teammates that had a chance to hang out a little bit. And so it was great for me to get a chance to meet Steve in person and for us to get a chance to have him on the show. And it's always great to have Bill Shively on. And boy, just a true Bulldog through and through.
Of course, the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show each and every Wednesday night, 6 to 7 p.m. right here on Sunny 97.3. Also got to give a shout out to our guy Brody Kaiser, who joined us on the Tailgate Show Off the Ice with Brody and Beth McKinney. Returns to the airwaves this week as well. That can be heard Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock on Sunny 97.3. Both shows available on Spotify and on YouTube as well. So hockey season coming. Of course, we've got the football show right now, and this will transition into basketball by the time we hit the winter months. So a lot of content here for the Ferris State fans.
Yeah, I know we're going to be excited once that transition comes, and hopefully it's after a long, successful football season. I'm excited to tune in to Brody and Beth and to get the scoop on the Ferris State hockey team, and a lot of new faces on the Ferris State hockey team, and I'm excited to get to know some of those new faces.
It's been exciting here to get a chance to get to know some of the guys a little bit better, guys like Taariik Brett that we had on the show here today with a magnificent kickoff return to open the game against Ashland. We've had Sefa Saipaia a couple weeks ago. We had Connor Neer. We had Trinidad Chambliss, so a chance really to get to know some of these Bulldog players a little bit better.
Yeah, not only for us to get a chance to know them better, but for us to help the fans get to know them better and to give some insight and to find out a little bit, not only what makes them tick in competition, but also things that they like to do outside of competition. So it's really been great to talk to some of these guys, to engage some of these guys, not only the student athletes, but also the coaches as well. And so, we're grateful to have this opportunity, this platform to be able to bring their stories to you.
Of course, we had a tough game in that opening week game against Pittsburgh State, but got to really like what this team's been able to do in the two home games, and now a chance maybe to take what they've done here at home and take it on the road and see if they can do it again.
Yeah, I'm excited about, and we heard from, Coach Rock and also from Taariik, the way that the team really refocused after Pittsburgh State. And I don't even know if it was so much a refocus, but they just wanted to get back at it. I think right after that game, and we were at the stadium there in Pittsburgh, and I think they just wanted to get back to work. And I think it showed against Lake Erie College, and I think it showed again against Ashland. Of course,
we'll be making the long trip with the team a week from Friday, and it's really enjoyable going on the road with those guys, especially when you get a chance to do it on a flight. The Bulldogs certainly have some experience doing that with the playoff runs in recent years, and it's a little different doing it in the regular season, but we've had a few of those as well.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun to get to know the guys better, and also our fellow support staff, and you get to know the equipment managers and the trainers and the administration, our fellow administrators. We get to know them a little bit better, the student trainers, the student equipment managers, the strength and conditioning staff. It's just a lot of fun to really be able to hang out with them and to get to know our fellow Bulldogs a little better.
Ferris State traveling to American International, back at home for homecoming against Roosevelt October 5th. That'll be a busy weekend. Got Bulldog hockey opening the season on Friday, October 4th against Miami of Ohio. They'll play them on Saturday night as well. You got Bulldog volleyball First home action for head coach Tia Brenda Wilhelm and her team, both on Friday and Saturday. So a triple header on homecoming Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and come out and support all of our teams, really, especially our Bulldog volleyball team off to such a brilliant start to the season. And it's going to be fun to be able to support Bulldog hockey. And when we get this many of our teams at home on homecoming, it just really adds to what is already a great time of the year with homecoming. It's traditional with football, but it's exciting when we can have other sports that are participating.
Of course, we'll have all the action here of all the events online, ferrisstatebulldogs.com, right here on your radio dial on Sunny 97.3. And, of course, on Metro Flint News Talk Radio with Bulldog football this season as well. Live coverage on the video side, pay-per-view on Flow Sports with the production courtesy of Ferris State Television for all home games. The Bulldogs here off to a great start here at 2-1 and certainly have continued to get better each and every week here throughout the first three games.
And that's what you love to see. I mean, almost to a man. The defense certainly came out and has played really well all three games. But I think they've probably gotten better all three games, and they can still continue to reach for that ceiling, which is exciting. And then the offense certainly has really turned it around since week 0, and they've played really, really well. We've talked a lot about, Trinidad Chambliss in particular, but I think the offensive line has played better. And so it's really been great to see all those pieces really come together for the team and that offense really start to get it going.
That'll do it for the Bulldog Blitz football radio show this week, presented by Two Hats Ranch. Thanks to the president of Ferris State University, Dr. Bill Pink, athletic director Steve Brocklebank, Steve Masters back at the Sunny 97.3 studios, Brody Kaiser for his production work as well, and all those who helped make this possible. Sandy, great to be on the air with you, and looking forward to next week when we'll talk more about the trip coming up to American International.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. For me personally, it's another state to check off the bucket list, so I'm excited about that, but I'm always excited about Bulldog football.
That'll do it. Thanks for tuning in to the episode this week of the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch.